Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and a great pleasure for me to welcome you and our very distinguished guests this afternoon on this significant and memorable occasion of the 31st award ceremony of the World Cultural Council. This year's ceremony is hosted by Aalto University within the framework of the Academic Summit, the impact of universities on economic growth, a most fitting setting for the presentation of these prestigious tributes to true giants in the world of research. Now it's my pleasure to call upon the President of Aalto University, Tuula Teeri, to deliver a welcoming address. Tuula, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates of the World Cultural Council, distinguished laureates, dear colleagues and students, ladies and gentlemen. Likewise, it is my great pleasure to be opening this award ceremony that inspires us this, what we thought was a dreary November day, but luckily has turned out to be even a little bit sunny, I think very appropriately for this celebration. So I most warmly welcome you all to Aalto University. We are today gathered at the very heart of Finnish technology and design. This lecture theatre where we are today and the whole building were designed by architect Alvar Aalto, after whom also our university is named. The building is situated on one of the 7 hills of the area at the end of a row of lime trees. It is the proud centre of our campus. This auditorium is the landmark feature of the building, placing the main missions of a university, sharing knowledge and learning in focus. Finland has put high stakes on research and innovation policies during the last few years. And the key element of this has been our university reform and the founding of Aalto University as its flagship in 2010. Aalto University is very future-oriented. Our goal is to be a world-class university by 2020 in research, art, education and societal impact in our own fields, science and technology, business and design. We're building on a combined history of over 300 years of our founding universities, but we are creating a culture of resilience that allows us to break paradigms for our future success of Finland in a rapidly changing world, which is also facing grave challenges, as we have already heard today. We invest in excellence in everything we do, joining forces between disciplines, working in close collaboration with industry and business, and create educating new talent to recreate our future, if you like. Scientific knowledge, education and culture are the very foundation of the success and well-being of mankind. The World Cultural Council has worked for decades to recognize the pioneers in these areas, making their contributions visible. Today we are celebrating 2 prominent pioneers and 6 young talents that are contributing to a better future for us all. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, I welcome you to Aalto University and the 31st award ceremony of the World Cultural Council. Thank you.
Thank you, President Teeri. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing the Permanent Secretary of the Finnish Ministry of Education and Culture, Ms. Anita Lehikoinen, who will deliver us the opening speech of this 31st award ceremony of the World Cultural Council. Anita, please.
laureates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great pleasure and honor to open the 31st award ceremony of the World Cultural Council. We are all proud to welcome you to Finland and to the unique Otaniemi campus. As was mentioned by President Tuula Teeri, we carried out a major university reform in 2010. Now all our universities are legal entities on their own. We created a completely new legal status for our universities because we, the government and the universities, could not find a suitable one from the existing alternatives. We wanted to cherish the unique role of universities in our society. On the one hand, we definitely wanted to create more room and autonomy to our universities so that they could become more competitive and more attractive to both national and international talent. But on the other hand, we also wanted to make sure that universities can excel in their traditional and, some argued, old-fashioned mission. That's why the government chose not to amend the second article of the Universities Act. The main mission of our universities is still to promote free research, academic and artistic education, provide higher education based on research, and to educate students to serve their country and humanity. And all this in close cooperation with surrounding society. It was really a conscious choice to keep the wording as it had been for decades already. Although there were many proposals from society and business and industry community to add all kinds of new duties to universities. And today I am still proud of that decision. We all expect great results from our universities, science, higher education and arts. Especially here in Finland, where most of the funding for research, education and arts comes from public sources. The balance between social accountability and institutional autonomy needs constant discussion and rethinking. The conclusion of the Ministry is that even from the government's and taxpayers' point of view, an autonomous university where talent, excellence and creativity is fostered is much more likely to contribute to solving of global economic, social, cultural and ecological problems. Sometimes this relaxed steering approach is criticized by political decision makers who expect visible and fast results. But the following argument usually makes our reasoning understandable. Let us just formulate the changes we want to realize and let the universities and scientific community surprise us with new insight and understanding, with groundbreaking new ideas. And obviously, we are just being selfish here. Usually researchers and educators can deliver so much more than the government can pre-order. Still, we do set goals to universities and the whole higher education system. One of the most important goals the government has set has to do with the internationalization of scientific community and our campuses all over the country. This goal is totally shared by universities. We need to be an integral part of global research community, partly because it is the ultimate quality assurance system for our research and education, but most importantly, because no nation can solve the problems of today by themselves, nor can anyone seize the huge opportunities brought by science and by raising the level of education of the world's population. We share the globe. We should share its most valuable resource, human capital, too. And as far as I understand, this is what the World Cultural Council is all about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Permanent Secretary Lehikoinen. I now have the great honor of introducing Edmund H. Fisher, President of the World Cultural Council, a Nobel laureate, who will deliver his salutatory address. Eddie, please.
President Thierry, Tuula, colleagues and friends, it is really a very great honor for the World Cultural Council to have Aalto-Yliopisto host this award ceremony, and I would like to really express all our gratitude for your hospitality. We had the privilege to hold I think it was the 20th award ceremony here in Helsinki at the National Archive of Finland, then headed by Jussi Noleba, who's here today, member of our council. So it is a renewed pleasure for us to be back here this year in conjunction with the academic summit that will start tomorrow. And Tuula, I would like to thank you once again for your very kind hospitality and the way you received us. The World Cultural Council was founded 31 years ago under the initiative of President José Rafael Estrada, and with the help of top scientists, including 20 Nobel laureates and distinguished personalities from Europe, from Asia, Africa, Australia, and the Americas. And Maestro Estrada presided the World Cultural Council for more than 20 years. He was my immediate predecessor. But more importantly, since its origin, he spent most of his time, most of his activities, most of his personal resources in support of this institution. So we really owe him a very great debt of gratitude and all our admiration and respect. The main goal of the World Cultural Council is to promote culture and a worldwide awareness of tolerance, of peace, and of fraternity. And its second mission is to recognize top scientists, artists, and educators by awarding them every year the Albert Einstein Prize in Science, and then every other year, alternatively, either the Leonardo da Vinci Prize in the Arts or the José Vasconcelos Award in Education. And we are really reunited here today to recognize two of those superb individuals. Sir Philip Cohen, Professor of Entomology at the University of Dundee and also Deputy Director of the MRC Division of, I think, signal transduction therapy. He received the Albert Einstein World Award in Science for his enormous contribution to signaling by protein phosphorylation and the enormous impact it had on the regulation of cellular processes. And then Professor Federico Rosei, head of the Center for Energy Materials and I think telecommunication of the Institut National de la Recherche Scientifique at the University of Quebec, for his constant efforts to launch initiatives in support of material research in developing countries, and also of his efforts to bridge basic scientific knowledge with technological applications. So it is a very great pleasure for me to express to those laureates on behalf of the World Cultural Council, and also to the distinguished scientists and scholars who will receive our special recognition awards, our wholehearted congratulations and admiration. Thank you.
And now, after the musical interlude, we move on to the awards. Firstly, the 2014 World Cultural Council Albert Einstein World Award for Science, which will be presented by President Edmund Fischer.
It seems I'm the only one doing all the speaking today, this afternoon. Well, it is a very particular pleasure for me to introduce to you this year's Albert Einstein Award in the Science, as you have heard already. Sir Phil Cohen, President of Enzymology at the University of Dundee. When I said a very particular pleasure, I really meant it. because I had the privilege of having him for 2 years in my laboratory as a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Washington in Seattle from 1969 to 1971. Just at the time that he was terminating his stay in Seattle and before going back to the UK for good, he went over there and visited, I don't know, maybe between 2 or 3 dozen universities, Oxford, Cambridge, Birmingham, I don't remember, to decide which one he would join after returning for good over there. And to my very large surprise, he decided to go it alone at the University of Dundee. I thought he was making an enormous mistake, but he proved me wrong once again. I don't know how many times he proved me wrong. And, you know, the beginning over there must have been exceedingly difficult for him, with no instrumentation, essentially no funding, in fact, no nothing, except perhaps for space. But within a few years, he succeeded in transforming the University of Dundee as one of the most active, most exciting, vibrant, in fact, famous institute in the life sciences. This is there that he started his seminal studies on protein phosphorylation and became rapidly one of the most prestigious discoverers of all the key kinases and phosphatases, determining their structure, their characteristics, their involvement in cellular regulation. He did the most, in fact, important work in the down signaling of the insulin receptor. Again, finding the major kinases, in fact, finding a missing link that had eluded the investigation of all the researchers until then. He is the first to have untangled the absolutely chaotic system of protein phosphatases. None of these had been purified, and therefore we were working with incredible, horrible mixtures of enzyme of unknown structure and of known properties. In fact, students and postdocs were given the friendly advice to stay away from this field that would really put an end to their career, that would invariably drive them towards a professional black hole. And those that persisted, you know, were told that most probably they would end up driving a cab somewhere, Bangkok. Well, Phil, by sorting out this mess, by isolating some of the principal phosphatases, by grouping them into various subtypes, he succeeded in proposing a system of classification and a nomenclature that was universally adopted and of immense help to those working in this area. As some of you who heard his talk has heard, his close ties with 7 of the world's leading pharmaceutical companies allow them to push them to target kinases and phosphatases for the treatment of various diseases, diabetes, Alzheimer, Parkinson's, of course, cancer. A few years ago, he decided to change gear and started working on another system of regulation, far more complicated than phosphorylation, called protein ubiquitination, to such an extent that he could persuade the Scottish governments to establish the £10 million Scottish Institute of Cell Signaling, designed to to study the role of ubiquitination in protein and in cell signaling. Phil also has been a superb mentor for a whole generation of young research scientists. And I must say that the 2 years he spent in my lab was two of the most enjoyable and rewarding years I could have had. It is commonly said that a teacher fails if he hasn't been surpassed by his students. Well, in this instance, there has been no failure on my part. Thank you.
During my career, I've been extremely fortunate to receive several international prizes, but today actually I think is a very special occasion for me. Not only because I understand that scientists from 5 different continents voted for me on the jury, which is sort of amazing, but especially because this prize has been awarded to me by my mentor, Eddie Fisher. The 2 years I spent in Eddie's lab were probably the most formative of my life. They introduced me to the field of protein phosphorylation, which has been a sort of a passion of mine ever since. In those days, this was a field that was thought to be very specialized, involved only in the regulation of carbohydrate metabolism. So it's really been a great privilege to have contributed to development of a field that we now know regulates almost all biological processes. Equally remarkable has been the transformation of this field from a topic of purely fundamental interest to one that's now having a major impact on human health. I think, as I mentioned in my talk this morning, I worked in this field for 25 years without any pharmaceutical industry having the slightest interest in anything that I was doing, but the situation could not be more different today. Although so far this field has really had only an impact in the field of cancer, it's likely that it's going to have a major impact on other diseases as well, and particularly the area of inflammatory and autoimmune diseases, which is my own particular current area of interest. I've greatly enjoyed my interactions with the pharmaceutical industry over the past 16 years, in which we've been able to help the participating companies to launch and accelerate the preclinical development of a large number of different drugs that are currently undergoing human clinical trials, including one that's now finally reached approval for the treatment of skin cancer. So the field of protein phosphorylation is surely a really good example of how governments need to fund basic fundamental science for many years because it can take, sometimes decades before the results of the research reach a stage where it becomes obvious how they can be exploited for the creation of wealth and to improve health. And this is a field which I think is a very, very good example of this situation. So Eddie has mentioned, and actually the citation mentions my role in helping to build up the life sciences in Dundee, which for those of you who don't know is Scotland's fourth largest city, but with a population of only 140,000. So when people asked me why did I go to the University of Dundee to start my career in 1971, I mainly reply it was because I was an extremely naive young 25-year-old. I went there because there was the first chairman of biochemistry who I thought would be supportive for my work. There was a lot of space, but it was only when I tried to get my lab up and running that I suddenly realized the university had absolutely no money to support any of my research. So it was extremely tough in the 70s, and I remember on a couple of occasions I was very close to closing down my lab for lack of funding. There's sometimes advantages in adversity. So it forced me to find innovative ways of doing my research and building up the biochemistry department that actually didn't rely on university funding. And this, I think, stood me in good stead, in later years. But it was really only, I think, in the late 1990s when we were just finishing the building of the first of several new sort of research institutes in Dundee that have been built subsequently that I suddenly realized that we were what we had been doing, I and my colleagues, was actually to help the economy of the city. And this is something we've actually focused on a lot more over the past decade or so. And I was quite surprised to learn recently that there are nearly 10,000 jobs in Dundee now, either which are dependent directly or indirectly on the life sciences and biotech industry, something like 15 to 20% of our total economy. So in addition to Eddie and the jury who voted for me, there are many others I of course have to thank for being here today. I'd particularly like to thank my PhD supervisor, Michael Rosemeyer, who gave me the rigorous training in protein chemistry that has been so important for my research. Also Peter Garland, who was the first chairman of biochemistry in Dundee, who appointed me to my position and actually spent a lot of his own research budget helping my lab to survive in the 1970s, something he didn't really, have to do. No lab can, of course, thrive without outstanding graduate students and postdoctoral fellows, and I think had now 45 PhD students and over 70 postdoctoral researchers who've sort of worked with me, many of whom have gone on to be leaders in the fields. And they've made a sort of huge contributions to everything I've been able to do. And last but not least, of course, I want to thank my family and especially my wife and colleague Tricia for the fantastic support that they've given me over the past nearly 50 years. So I want to thank you all once again for this wonderful award. Of course, not only a great honor for me, but for my research team and for my university. Thank you very much indeed.
And now it is the turn of the prize for education. And for that, I would like to ask Anna Valtonen, the Dean of the Aalto University School of Arts, Design and Architecture, to present this year's Jose Vasconcelos World Award of Education. Anna, please.
Dear laureates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Jose Vasconcelos World Award of Education is granted every other year to a renowned educator, an authority in the field of teaching, on an education policy legislator who has had significant influence on the advancement of culture of mankind. Among the previous winners are Gilbert the Landseer, Sir David Attenborough, William G. Bowen, Hans Ulrich Gumbrecht, and Safra M. Lerman, who I know is here with us today. This year, the World Cultural Council will present the Jose Vasconcelos Award for Education to Federico Rossi, Professor and Director of the Center for Energy, Materials and Telecommunications of the Institut National de la Recherche Scientifique, the INRS, at the University of Quebec, Varennes, in Canada. In awarding him this prestigious prize, the World Cultural Council recognizes his valuable contribution in the field of chemistry, as well as his work to bridge the science and technology gap with developing countries. Federico Rosset is a young scientist with a singularly clear vision of how science and its application can be used to empower individuals to address some of humanity's most pressing challenges. Since starting his independent career in 2002, he has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to training and mentoring young scientists. He has assembled a talented research group composed of 90 trainees from 25 countries on all 6 continents, many of whom have returned to their home countries to practice and teach science. Over half of these have received prestigious fellowships and awards of various funding agencies. Committed to the North-South and South-South cooperation, Professor Rosset has launched initiatives to aid materials research in developing countries. He has given countless seminars and keynote lectures across the planet and has also published various works. Most recently, Federico has materialized his vision for capacity building in developing countries through the establishment of the UNESCO Chair in Materials and Technologies for Energy Conversion, Saving and Storage, of which he will be the inaugural chairholder at INRS. The creation of this network of partners spanning 10 countries in Africa, Central America and Asia bears testimony to his strong connections with scientists the world over, along with his commitment to sustainable energy for all. On another front, Federico has designed and implemented a graduate course to enhance soft skills in young scientists and help them make informed career choices. He has given over 35 survival skills lectures in universities worldwide and a dozen invited talks at international conferences. The popularity of his book, Survival Skills for Scientists, it was published in 2006, which sold out in less than 1 year, has been reprinted twice and was translated into Japanese in 2008, is a clear indicator of the value of his advice on professional development. Professor Rosset has also given numerous lectures on energy and society at high schools and other venues to educate the public at large on issues of sustainability, once again reflecting his passion for sharing knowledge and inspiring talent at all levels. So, for his immense vision and his commitment to education to serve the common good, this year's José Vasconcelos World Award for Education goes to Professor Federico Rosset. And I would like to ask President Tuulateri, President Fischer, Esteban Mescasoros, and Professor Federico Rosset to come onto the stage in that order for the delivery of the 2014 José Vasconcelos World Award.
Professor Fisher just asked me, Professor Dr. Fisher just asked me why I shaved. And it seems that people are concerned with my facial expressions and lack or presence of beard. And so the world seems to be divided between those who think I should shave and those who think I don't. Anyway, so I'm greatly honored and delighted to be here today for a long list of reasons, which it will take me about 3 hours to list, so please bear with me now. Well, first of all, this award came as a total surprise when my nominator suggested this adventure. I was about to turn him down, thinking that I had absolutely no chance, and then I thought, well, that would be very rude of me to turn down somebody who wants to support me, so I said, okay, let's do it. I was really not holding my breath. And then the announcement came on that very special day in my life when I was visiting the Moai statues on Easter Island, which was one of those big trips on my bucket list. So it was already a special day, and it was enhanced by this unexpected surprise. And in addition to this, of course, I'm particularly delighted and honored to be in the presence of such distinguished guests here. And this is, of course, my first trip to Finland, so today's event ensures that this will be an unforgettable and incredible trip. I will always remember Finland as one of the great visits of my life. Also, I've learned a lot in the past year about the World Cultural Council, and I was particularly honored by this award. I view the World Cultural Council as an inspiring organization, and I feel that my mission as an educator is closely aligned with its goals. And well, of course, I owe a debt of gratitude to a number of people. First of all, I've been fortunate to have several mentors in my career who have supported me and believed in me, and thanks to whom, together with my team, we were able to do things that I really didn't think we could do. And as Sir Cohen mentioned, the great credit of any scientist and academic goes to his or her students and postdoctoral fellows, and if I have succeeded in doing anything in my career, I owe it to them. Today I was asked in an interview what was my greatest achievement, and this relates again to my mentors, because they have supported me so much that I feel it is my duty to give back as much as possible and inspire the careers of others and give opportunities to young scientists. And so my greatest achievement, I think, relates to a student who knocked on my door when I had just started my faculty position 12 years ago. And he was originally from Romania. He had worked in industry for several years after obtaining his master's degree. Then he moved to Germany to study and do a PhD. And in the meantime, decided to immigrate to Canada with his wife. So halfway through his PhD, he got his immigration papers, which said, "You come now or you forget about it." So he abandoned his PhD in Germany, came to Canada. He had no Canadian connections or experience, so he could not find a job, and he could not find anybody to give him another PhD opportunity until he knocked on my door. He was actually older than me. I thought he had potential. I gave him a chance. He did very well in his PhD. He then obtained a postdoctoral fellowship from our main funding agency, which is very competitive and prestigious. And then he got a job at the National Research Council, so he did very well for himself with the opportunity I gave him. And I feel, in a way, he was my greatest achievement. I gave him an opportunity when nobody else would. And I also want to highlight the presence of a colleague here in the audience. He's an assistant professor in my center, but he's also a former postdoctoral fellow of mine, one of those 12 who became faculty members in 7 different countries. And of course, it was a great pleasure to work with him when he was a member of my team, and now it's an even greater pleasure to see him develop his own scientific independent ideas. And when we developed the course Survival Skills, we didn't know what we were doing. We just thought there might be a need for soft professional skills besides the technical skills we were providing to our students. So the first time we did it, it was just an informal discussion group. Then, since it was very successful and the students were enthusiastic, we went back to the appropriate committees and suggested we create a formal graduate course. Now, a formal graduate course usually is worth 3 credits at INRS. And our colleagues said, okay, your course can be up for credits, and we will give it 1 credit. So we said, why only 1 when the other courses have 3? And they said, well, because if we give it 3 credits, then the students will choose this one instead of our technical courses. And we said, well, but at least this course is useful. Now, that didn't go down very well, so they still decided to give it only 1 credit, which is better than nothing. We just thought it's better than a punch in the nose, so why not? And in the meantime, I was writing the book, and then this whole activity took on a life of its own, and became much more than something I was doing on the side, because obviously, considering all the invited lectures and even this incredibly prestigious award, there's some form of recognition for what we have done over the years. And this runs in parallel with the UNESCO chair. I must say, the whole idea dates back to the days when I was a kid and I was playing with the children of other physicists at the ICTP in Trieste, the one founded by Abdus Salam, who I learned today was one of the founding members of the World Cultural Council. The world is, after all, very small. And also it dates back to the days when I was in high school at this United World College, and I had classmates from all over the world. There's a non-profit organization. We were all there on scholarship, and I met so many people coming from poor countries of the world, and I realized that all the luxuries that I took for granted, like having running water at home, were really a privilege that few people on this planet can enjoy, and that most people do not know anything about. And ever since then, I thought something should do something about this, and we should try to bridge the gap, the poverty gap, the technology gap between North and South. And that has inspired me eventually to create the UNESCO chair. But tribute of gratitude also goes to a discussion I had with my father almost a decade ago. He retired a few years ago as a professor of physics at the University of Trieste. So physics and whatnot run in the family, you could say. Well, we were talking on the phone, and I mentioned to him that his latest paper had just been published, and he reacted with no enthusiasm. So I asked him, is there something wrong with your paper? And he said, no, it's fine. And I said, so why do I detect no enthusiasm in your voice? And he said, well, I published about 200 papers in my career, and none of them have changed the world, and I doubt that this latest one will be any different. Now, having heard that when I was still a very young, I think I was already associate professor at the time, but still, in my early 30s, that gave me pause to reflect, and I realized if I don't do anything about this now, in 30 years I will feel just as jaded, except probably with today's tendency to publish a lot of papers, a lot more than in the past generation. I thought I might have 500 papers and still feel they have not changed the world. So I thought maybe I should focus on something else. And I realized that my mission as an academic is not so much to publish papers. They are important in my line of work, but my real mission is to train people. That is a real product that my university offers, like any other good university. So I decided to really focus on the training and educational part of my of my profession, and that I decided to do it in the most global and international way possible, and this eventually inspired me to approach UNESCO to set up this network, and that is the starting point of what I like to call my 30-year plan, and so I'm greatly honored and humbled by this José Vasconcelos Award, because it is a very important milestone in the development of this plan. Thank you very much.
At this point, I would like to ask Dr. Jussi Nuorteva, Director General of the National Archives of Finland, member of the World Cultural Council, to present the winner's book.
Distinguished President of the World Cultural Council, Honorable President of the University, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I have the honor and pleasure on behalf of the World Cultural Council and its interdisciplinary committee of scholars from around the world of expressing our deepest gratitude to the President of the Aalto University, Professor Tuula Teeri, and to her staff for hosting this 31st award ceremony of the Council here in the main hall of the University. Aalto University is now added to the number of the prestigious universities which have hosted this event, among them, to mention but a few, the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, the University of Heidelberg, the MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, ETH, Eidgenössische Technische Hochschule in Zurich, the Australian National University of Canberra, Oxford University, Princeton University, Universidad Autónoma del Estado de México, Aarhus University, and last year Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. As Professor Fischer already mentioned, the WWUC had its 20th anniversary in Finland in 2003, and being Finn myself, I particularly, of course, share his pleasure of having the event here in Finland once again. Now, dear guests, I have the honor of telling you about the World Cultural Council's Winners Book. This book is a symbol that bears the witness to the perseverance and conviction of those brilliant men and women whose intellectual curiosity and outstanding scientific work often started, as we have heard, of something unseen, something uncertain, something improbable even in the eyes of many of their colleagues, but achievable for those who dare to have the courage to go beyond the ordinary. We, as representatives of the global scientific community and our societies, are grateful to you. Your example can inspire many others to tackle the grand challenges facing us and to look for solutions and cooperation through scientific work and method. You carry the light of wisdom and hope. All those who have won awards of the World Cultural Council are asked to add their signatures to the winner's book at the solemn award ceremony. I would therefore like to ask Sir Philip Cohen to come and sign the winner's book in the company of our witnesses of honor, President Tuula Teeri and Edmund Fischer. Please. Thank you, Professor Cohen. And now it is my pleasure to ask the winner of the José Vasconcelos World Award of Education for 2014, Professor Federico Rosei, to come and sign the winner's book in the company of our witnesses of honor, President Teeri and Fischer. You can stay here. Thank you, dear audience. My duty is not over yet. We still have one pleasant ceremony to perform. It is my honor to announce that at this 31st award ceremony of the World Cultural Council, we would like to make a special acknowledgement to the President of Aalto University, Professor Tuula Teeri. Professor Teeri has been President of Aalto University since 2009. She has made a great contribution to the strong development of the university, as well to the Finnish research and innovation system and university education. President Teeri has long experience of both Finnish and Swedish universities and research organizations, as well as work in the private sector in the United States of America. She has been able to build on this wealth of experience in her present position for the benefit of Aalto University and far beyond. We are grateful for the opportunity to celebrate the award ceremony in the framework of the conference, The Impact of Universities on Economic Growth, focusing on the importance of scientific excellence in developing universities and society. We congratulate you on the good choice of the theme for this event, as it is a crucial matter for the development of the economy and welfare in Finland, Europe, and worldwide. I would like to ask President Professor Fischer to deliver the World Cultural Council Medal for Educational Merit to President Tuula Teeri.
Something else. I'll go down.
I will check.
Because I have to give those special awards.
Thank you, Jussi, and congratulations, Tuula. Although I must say I'm shocked to see that my minute-by-minute schedule has been altered in this radical way. But in addition to this prestigious award, the World Cultural Council will also make special recognition to 6 highly distinguished Finnish scholars who have made outstanding contributions in different fields of science and education. I would like to ask Gary Marquis, the Dean of the Aalto-Yliopisto School of Engineering, to introduce the winners of the special recognitions.
So, dear Professor Fischer, Tuula Teeri, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. As part of the 31st awards ceremony of the World Cultural Council, they have seen fit to grant special recognition awards to 6 talented researchers who early in their careers have had international impact through their research. I will read the first citation for Associate Professor Camilla Holanti, Professor in Mathematics at Aalto University School of Science. Professor Camilla Holanti leads a vibrant research group in algebra and number theory. This branch of discrete mathematics is central to applications in coding, computing, and communications. Holanti and her group have made important contributions to space-time codes, distributed storage systems, and secure communications. And to present this award, I would first invite Professor Fischer to join me again on stage, and he will be awarding these prizes to our young researchers. So I think you would go on that side here. So I would ask Camilla to join us on stage now. Our second award is to Assistant Professor Katri Kauppi, Professor in Logistics at Aalto University School of Business. Professor Katri Kauppi is a prolific researcher whose work covers the areas of public procurement, e-procurement, global sourcing, maverick buying, fair trade supply chains, and using organizational theories in purchasing research. Kauppi has previously worked as an assistant professor and lecturer at Nottingham University Business School and Manchester Business School. Her research has been awarded at the annual Euroman Operations Management Association Conference twice, in 2011 and 2014. Professor Kauppi has been invited to be a member of the Finnish Academy of Science and Letters Academy Club for Young Scientists in 2013-2014. So, Professor Kauppi. Our next award is for Mauri Kostiainen, Assistant Professor in Polymer Technology, Aalto University School of Chemical Technology. Professor Kostiainen's research group focuses on biohybrid materials which allow the best features of synthetic and biological material types to be combined. His scientific merits are excellent and include, for example, papers in Nature Nanotechnology and Nature Chemistry. Professor Kostiainen belongs to the Academy of Finland's Center of Excellence in Molecular Engineering of Biosynthetic Hybrid Materials Research. So, Professor Kostiainen. The next award is to Matti Kuittinen, a doctoral candidate from the Department of Architecture from Aalto University School of Arts, Design, and Architecture. Doctoral candidate Kuittinen leads an interdisciplinary, practice-based research group within SMART, the Art of Structures and Materials. His work focuses on the groundbreaking interaction of wooden architecture, carbon footprint, life cycle assessment, energy efficiency, and humanitarian aid. He is a member of the emergency preparedness team at Finchurch Aid and one of the leading specialists in humanitarian project management and construction in Finland. So, Professor Kuittinen. Our next award is to Assistant Professor Jani Romanov, Professor of Marine Technology from Aalto University School of Engineering. Professor Jani Romanov is the very first professor appointed in his field at Aalto University and has already succeeded in obtaining significant research grants from both the Academy of Finland and as a Finland Distinguished Professor grant from the Finnish Funding Agency for Innovation. For a young professor, Romanov has established an impressive research record with more than 20 ISI publications in the past 3 years. So, Jani. Assistant Professor Helle Savin is professor in micro and nanoelectronics at the Aalto University School of Electrical Engineering. Professor Savin was nominated to Aalto University following a highly competitive application process. Immediately afterwards, after the nomination, she received the prestigious European Research Council starting grant to study phenomena that cause decline of efficiency in solar cells over time. In 2013, Professor Savin and her group succeeded in reaching a world record of 18.7% in the black silicon solar cells using a novel surface passivization scheme. So, Professor Savin.
Sì? Now. Distinguished Tula Terry, President of Aalto University, members of the Interdisciplinary Committee, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Education, guests of honor here tonight, Mexican Ambassador to Finland, Her Excellency Mrs. Norma Berta Pensado, representatives of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Throughout human history, man has always faced new challenges, allowing him to raise his quality of life on this earth. Educated men and women, sages and scientists, philosophers and artists have all contributed to what is now the heritage of the world. For the vast majority of mankind, these advances remain hidden and are part of the mystery which only ready eyes and minds can interpret. It is a very deep-felt honor for me at this moment, personally, and on behalf of President Emeritus Maestro José Rafael Estrada and all the members of the World Cultural Council, to acknowledge the work of Professor Edmund Fischer, who has worked untiringly for 15 years for the progress of the World Cultural Council and for the last 8 years as its president. Eddie, it has been an enormous pleasure to work together and discover the unique human being that you are. Thank you for the opportunity. At the same time, dear Professor Fischer, I would like to express our deepest gratitude for your outstanding work and unflagging dedication for a life committed to the betterment of science and education worldwide. Today, 17th of November 2014, you hand over the presidential emblem to a distinguished scientist, Professor Sir Colin Blakemore, a founder member of the Council. Professor Blakemore's career is remarkable. He is a professor of neuroscience and philosophy, director of the Center for the Study of the Senses at the School of Advanced Study, University of London. He is Emeritus Professor of Neuroscience, Nuffield Department of Clinical Neurosciences, University of Oxford, and Honorary Professor of the Chinese Academy of Medical Sciences, among a long list of appointments. As well as being a very active researcher, he has spent a large part of his life at the service of national and international organizations. He has, for example, served as president of the Physiological Society, Chief Executive of the Medical Research Council. He's also a member, of course, of the Royal Society and member of the Academy of Europe. Moreover, he has worked as editor on over 29 books and journals on science and science policy, besides authoring many books himself. What is more, he was knighted in the Queen's Birthday Honours last June for his groundbreaking research in vision and the development of the brain, along with his contribution to science policy and outreach. In a nutshell, Professor Blakemore has been and remains a leading force in research and science policy. Colin, our very best wishes that this period you are now starting at the forefront of the World Cultural Council will be one of consolidation and progress for the organization, as well as of personal fulfillment, with your wide experience and manifold talents at the service of humankind. I would like to ask President Fischer, Eddie, please, to come to the stage to hand over the presidential emblem of the World Cultural Council to Sir Colin Blakemore. And Colin, as your first duty, it is my pleasure to invite you to give the Presidential Emeritus Medal to Eddie Fischer. Well done. Thank you, you all. Thank you.
President Tulatere, ex-President Fischer, laureates, ladies and gentlemen. Esteban was asking me at lunch whether we have the same metaphor in English as in Spanish for this kind of occasion, the metaphor of passing the baton, as in a running race. And I said, yes, we do. But I've been thinking about that since. I'm fairly confident that Eddie will not run away so fast that I can't catch up with him. But I am worried about this baton. I'm not at all sure that I could carry that baton as elegantly and efficiently as Eddie. For one thing, I'm full of admiration for the fact that first he seems to know everyone in the scientific world, but even worse, to have taught most of them, certainly from what I've seen of his interaction with the prize winners. Well, this year, thinking about the baton, at least I knew of Federico's work. I read his book before I knew about the prize. That's a good start. And I know Philip Cohen very well from the time when I was chief executive of the UK Medical Research Council, and he was the director of his institute in Dundee. So I visited him there and was as much impressed, and I'm sure you too, as much impressed by his charm, and by the way, by the quality of his coffee, as I was by his science. Now, I have to admit, and I've never admitted this to Philip before, one of my objectives in that visit to Dundee was to persuade him that it would be possible to reduce his budget. And I came back on the train realizing that I'd agreed to increase his budget. So Philip has some very special skills. You will remember that he has managed to persuade the politicians to support the establishment of an institute for ubiquitination. Now, anybody who can do that must be pretty skillful. Like Eddie, and he was telling me this earlier, when I received a note from the World Cultural Council a very long time ago now to join this organization, I had not heard of it before, but was very impressed by its objectives, by its commitment to scholarship, to humanism, to creativity, and altruism, to culture. So I thought this is an organization worth joining. So it's a very particular delight after all this time to be asked to become the president. It's a huge honor, and I shall do my best to step into Eddie's very ample shoes. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would now like to ask President of the Aalto University, Tuula Teri, to the podium to present some concluding remarks.
Ladies and gentlemen, what a wonderful ceremony it has been. I want to congratulate this year's laureates, Professor Sir Philip Cohen and Professor Federico Rossi, for their outstanding achievements in research and education for the benefit of the mankind. And I also want to congratulate the winners of the 6 special recognitions, Camilla Hollanti, Katri Kauppi, Mauri Kostiainen, Matti Kuittinen, Jani Romanov, and Hele Savin, who early in their careers have had international impact through their research. We are very proud of you. I think we are all impressed and humbled by your achievements and wish you all continued success in your work. We have been discussing today about quite grave challenges, also yesterday, how we have challenges with energy, population growth, too much using of oil, which is still too cheap for us, and things like that. But we've also seen very encouraging and inspiring evidence for how diseases like cancer actually can be overcome by excellence in science, how energy issues might actually, in spite of their complexity, be solved in a similar fashion. We are seeing new opportunities because of science, and it gives us all hope. The other thing that I think that I will be bringing with me from this ceremony is the great dedication of great researchers in their students, and also how the students, when they become great scientists, still acknowledge their teachers. And I think this is a kind of a joint or some kind of a binding between scientists all over the world, that we teach each other, we learn from each other, and we actually do have quite an inherent, the best scientists have a very inherent respect for each other's work. And I think that this is the kind of very foundation of the scientific community, as we like, almost today it feels like a family more than a community, our PhD students and postdocs are like our sons and daughters, and our mentors are like our fathers or mothers. So there seems to be a sort of a joint spirit in science, which I think is really worthwhile to maintain and keep. And these kind of prizes, which are recognizing the excellent achievements, I think are very good moments for us to stop to think, as many of you had done in your careers, stop to think, what do we actually want to do? And I think that if we can raised to the same kind of achievements that our prize winners today and our young scientists and our senior members here today, I think there is good hope for science. There's good hope for the world. I think we will be able to keep this globe going for another couple of years. I also say that, the other thing that comes very clearly in these talks and presentations and memories is the moment of surprise. And I'm very grateful for the surprise and the honor that was given to me today by this very surprising prize. Thank you very much. It is a very important and significant medal for me. Thank you. So I want to just thank both the World Cultural Council team and our own excellent events team for orchestrating this event. And I also want to thank our student, Mariana Robinson, for the beautiful visual art of this event. I thank the World Cultural Council once more for the opportunity to host this distinguished ceremony, and I thank you all for sharing this precious moment with us. Thank you.
All good things come to an end, but before we finish, there's one more thing that I'd like to do. I would like to ask the members of the Presidium, the winners of the awards, and the special recognition awardees to come to the stage for an official photo to be taken. So please, everyone, come on stage. Past president, current president, general director. Go in the front, please. On behalf of Aalto University and the World Cultural Council, I thank you all for your presence here today. My and our congratulations to all of you who have been rewarded for your excellence and contributions to science, education, and the well-being of mankind. I would also like to thank the organizers for this event for creating such a beautiful and inspiring ceremony. My admiration and gratitude also go to the most accomplished musicians of the Polytechnic Orchestra. Thank you so much. There will now be a reception in the lobby outside. Thank you again for attending the ceremony, and a very good afternoon to you all. We shall now rise to follow the procession outside, led by the President.